now, and hopefully we'll have another view of him before he does walk off in search of the females. But welcome on board this morning. It is a little bit overcast this morning. We had quite a big thunderstorm, but again quite pitiful when it came to the amount of rain. I think there was only a couple of mils that fell. So the temperatures are still, it's pretty humid, so we're having a lot of mist this morning. Oh, I think he's having a bit of a scratch on his head now. We actually just watched him try and scratch his rear end on a marula tree. But welcome on board this morning. My name is Tara, and joining me on camera is Andrew. And back in final control we have Brian and the Thumb, keeping an eye on things as ever. Oh, and that looks to be a good scratching post. Just the right height. Okay, you can see he's using his trunk, getting any information that he can. Remember, they have an extremely good sense of smell, but he'll be using his ears to locate the females. And if there's any females that are in estrus in the area, they'll give off an estrus chorus, a particular call to try and attract the males to the area, and the bulls that are in must will respond to that. And obviously must will help the elephants. If there is any other big bull elephants around, it will help them to become a little bit more sure of themselves. And if there's elephants that are like for like in size, the levels of testosterone increase quite dramatically, and usually you can see a gland just on the side of their face that weeps, which tends to mean that they're in full must. We're going to see if we can catch up with him, so hold on. He's got a bit of a scratch behind his ear as well. He's trying to use his trunk to get at it. So I am keeping my distance. He looks like he's actually quite relaxed. Looks like quite an older, maybe about 35, 40. And by that age, they don't have as much to prove, so they have been through the process a few times. So they're not as aggressive towards the vehicles as maybe what they could be as they're younger. And certainly here in the Sabi Sands, the elephants are fairly chilled. But nevertheless, we're just going to respect him, because as I say, with that amount of hormone running around their body, they could get irritated and they could potentially, because as I say, with that amount of hormone running around their body, they could get irritated and they could potentially warn us that they're getting irritated. So I'm just going to keep a very close watch on his behaviour. Just could potentially warn us that they're getting irritated, so I'm just going to keep a very close watch on his behaviour. Just see if there is any sign of him getting irritated with us. Let's say he's picking up the marula fruits, having a quick bite to eat. Good morning, everybody. But you can see he is not giving us any warning signs at this stage. Let's say he's picking up the marula fruits, having a quick bite to eat. Good morning, everybody. But you can see he's not giving us any warning signs at this stage at all. Sometimes they'll pick up the foot and they'll kind of do this whole, not sure what to do, and they'll just stand there waving their foot around. Sometimes they'll do a head shake like this, and their ears flap by the sides of their head. Makes quite a big noise. But you can see he's not doing that at all. But you might actually be able to see he's dribbling urine, and that's what we're smelling. It's really strong, and it's dribbling down the side of his legs. Quite often it can look green, I think, just because there is quite a lot of moisture in the air, so we're not really seeing that. But you can certainly now see, I was struggling to see that because I thought, oh, with that smell we should be able to see the urine on his legs. And then just as it caught the light, you could see the glistening at the back. And again, that just lets other bulls know, you know what, I'm in full must, don't stand in my way if you aren't. And must is an Urdu word meaning intoxicated, because the males can lose control. It looks like he's got a tick just above his eye. Is it a tick, or it could be just a bit of mud? Yeah, maybe just a bit of splashing of mud. Hi Virginia in Kentucky, welcome on board this morning. And Virginia noticing he's got a couple of holes. And you can see the hole on his right ear, it's quite an odd shape. So he could have caught it on a branch, especially a thorn tree. He might just have snagged it if he'd opened his ear pretty wide and flapped his ear. He might just have snagged it, but the one on the left looks fairly round. Now, if he's been to the boundaries of the reserve, it could be that someone was taking a pot shot at him. Sometimes that does happen. Especially on the boundaries. So if they do have a nice round hole, it could be an old wound. It more so in years gone by. You don't hear of it really happening nowadays, but as I say, I think this elephant's probably in his 40s, so it could have happened years ago. And then obviously as the elephant grows older, that wound just doesn't heal. So there's a couple of ways it can get in. Sometimes you'll see the tears in the ears, as I say, from branches. Now, as I said before, you do sometimes get the ears being folded out, so they look really large, and they'll hold the head up, and that is a threatening display. But what he's doing now is actually just cooling his blood down, because as I say, the temperature is still fairly warm this morning. I mean, I'm certainly feeling it, and the humidity. So he's just flapping his ears just to help cool the blood down. You might be able to see all the veins and arteries in his ears, especially at the edges of his ears. And they can pump 6 litres of blood a minute in each ear. and that can help to cool down the blood as much as 3 degrees, and it will be pumped back around the body to keep them cool. So you have to look at the whole thing. So even though, yes, he's flapping his ears now, he's not looking at us, he's still feeding, he's carrying on his behaviour, so that's still not threatening towards us. Hi Tam in Colorado, good to have you on board. And I've often wondered this myself, Tam, if bull elephants... Oh, Pam, sorry, Pam. Need to sort my hearing out. I need elephant ears, I think. But welcome on board this morning, Pam. And as I said, I've often wondered this, and I've not experienced bull elephants finding or responding to females in estrus who aren't in must themselves, and I can't see why they wouldn't if they're close by. But bulls in must, that's the only thing on their mind, or one of the only things. I think the only thing on this boy's mind at the moment is finding breakfast. But it could be that there's no females in this area that are in estrus. But if there was if there were females in the area that are in estrus, then he pretty much would go and find them. But being in must does give them that edge, and as I say, there's that bravado. And the females will decide if they want to mate with those males. So I think obviously the testosterone, they'll be able to pick up on that as well, and they'll be able to see for themselves who is a nice strong bull. And if their daughters are coming into estrus for the very first time, they'll actually help the daughter through that process. The elders will actually pick out a suitor for her, and they'll almost just be with her and hold her hand almost through the process, because they could pick a nice beautiful bull like this if he turns up. And especially if they, just coming into estrus around the late teens, early 20s for the very first time, then he's going to dwarf that female. See, he's being very gentle, just picking up the marula fruits from the floor. You can see they've got the 2 fingers on the end of the trunk, one above and one below the opening. And it just goes to show they can be so dexterous with their trunk. They can just pick up a single blade of grass if they want. Dexterous, is that the right word? Am I just making up a word now? But they're capable of doing very intricate things with that trunk. Yeah, I was going for dexterous, but dexterous, I suppose you could use it in that context, couldn't you? Hi Adam, welcome on board. Adam's from Boston this morning, and good to hear from you. Now, for those of you who would like to ask questions, I did forget to remind you first thing this morning, if you would like to ask questions, it's questions@wildearth.tv, or you can send them through to the Twitter account at #SafariLive. And because we are live, you can ask anything that you were seeing on the screen. You can ask about it, as you've heard just now while we've been watching the elephant. A lot of elephant questions coming through. But you'd like to know if elephants, or how often elephants come into must throughout the year. And again, it will depend on the individual. They'll go through must, and also it'll depend on how long the must lasts. Sometimes the must can last a couple of weeks, sometimes it can last a few months, and it'll depend on the age of the animal as well. And it seems to last a lot longer as they're younger, and as they get older it seems to that the time decreases, but then they might go for a few months and then go into must again. And I think a lot of it will be to do with when they've mated as well. So if they've mated fairly recently, they might not come into must again for a few months. But there's a lot of what and ifs. There's no, yes, they'll come into must every 2 months. It will last 1 month. It's not really like that. There's a lot of dependence. There you go. You can see that urine at the back of the legs there. And we're not downwind. The wind has actually dropped, so I'm not smelling him now. How would you describe that urine smell? It wasn't urine. It was more musty, a musty smell, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It had almost like a sweet scent to it, I think. Not quite like fermented fruit, but certainly that sweet flavour almost. But he is a beautiful gentleman. You can see the bark on the other side of that marula tree where somebody has been taking the bark off, just on the right there. Hi Joe, interesting question there. And with the urine being on the legs, are you going to give us a walk by, mister? Wait, no, a few more fruits there. Hello, beautiful boy. Yeah, I can see you've got a bit of mud up there, hey? Wow, look at this. Hello, mister. Hello. Yeah, I'm not a female Ellie, thank you. There's no need to play with the vehicle, thank you. No need. Come on, mister. Come on. Thank you very much. Alright, mister. Just stay slow. Wow.
Wow.
Wow. Whew, heart is pounding.
Heart is beating.
I was saying we were quite a distance from him.
Yeah, that was...
Just showing us that he is the stronger of the two of us, and I have no doubt about that. Oh, there's another Ellie in the distance. I was going to say, he didn't need to prove it to us, but apparently in his mind he did. I can safely say that is the closest I've ever been to an elephant.
Yeah.
And he was a big boy. Yeah, there is another elephant coming up in the distance. I wonder if they're going to meet. Maybe that's who he was sniffing out earlier. You can see he's putting his trunk up as well. He's possibly smelling this male. Slowly making his way here. Looks like a smaller, younger bull. And that would be, oh, I can smell that urine again now. And that would be quite normal. The younger bulls would have left their maternal herds around 16, 18 and will quite often find older bulls to hang around with and learn how to be a male. But yeah, this one, you can see the tusks are a lot thinner than the other male. We got a nice view of those tusks. Oh, there you go, he's actually turned around. Let me just see if I can back up a little bit so we can actually see. He's coming for another walk by. And as cool as that was, I don't want to have a reprise. So we'll give him a little bit of a distance again. There you go, he's actually having a bit of a scratch again. But as he was walking towards us, there was still no aggression there. I think it really was just testing out and just making sure. And as I say, I am female, and it could just be that he was smelling something and just making sure that I wasn't a female elephant. So I just kept reminding him, no, we're not, thank you. You can see this young bull's walking quite slowly towards this old man. You can see his trunks up, smelling. Now, when an elephant greets each other, they can put the trunks in each other's mouths as a way of greeting. Looks like our bull's not overly enamoured with him. You can see probably about half the size. Now you can see that weaving the head and that walk, and he wasn't actually doing that towards us, but that's also a way that he'll actually say, yeah, I'm the man. That's why I actually thought he was going to carry on by, and he might have just caught a scent of something on the vehicle that made him stop and just check. As I say, just to have that bravado. Now, if we'd have moved at that point, that could have irritated him. So that's why I just stayed put, just let him do what he needed to do. And sometimes I do find just talking to the animals just helps to give that reassurance. So if he had decided, you know what, I don't like you, he could have easily have just tipped the vehicle over, which obviously would not have been great. So the little bull has gone round the back of the termite mound. The big bull's gone round the front of the termite mound. So it looks like little bull is kind of allowed to hang around, but the big bull is not. It doesn't look like he really wants to have company. I think the little bull is picking up on that. So this is where sometimes the guests come out to have a bush braai out in the bush. You can see no fences around it, so it is open to everybody. Apparently a lot of people on Twitter, their heart was racing, and apparently a lot of people also saying the heart was racing and they were holding their breath. Well, yeah, we were pretty much doing the same here. The adrenaline has just subsided now. As I say, that is pretty much. Apart from there wasn't. I was just saying to Andrew, there's the bull. Maybe he's going to come and say hello to him after all. There's a few marula fruits down there. You can see him putting out his trunk. I think he is wanting to try and greet him. But yeah, there was this beautiful old bull, much older than this guy. And again, he was very, very chilled. And he stood right at the front of the vehicle, probably about a metre away, but never actually put his trunk or his tusks actually on the vehicle. And as I say, well, he got to about half a metre, I think, from our face. What would you say?
Well, he was rocking the vehicle.
Yeah, no, just on the front here, but when he stood right next to me, he was probably about half a metre away from my face.
I think closer than that. I think closer.
Don't tell my mum, everybody. She'll have a heart attack. As I say, I think he's kind of accepted this bull. You can see that he was quite calm towards the bull as well. And as I say, I haven't picked up any sign of aggression from him. That's why we did keep our distance from him. But as I say, it's one of those, you've got to decide fairly quickly if they're walking towards you, if you move. But sometimes if you move, that can actually trigger them to go, oh, I've got something to play with here. So sometimes you just have to stand your ground. And as I say, he was walking, and he wasn't doing the head weaving, he wasn't showing signs of any aggression. And that for me really wasn't aggression, it was just, hey, you know, I'm bigger than you. There was possibly a smell that he picked up, and he was just checking out what was going on. Very cool. Maybe the bull's actually gone, because he actually started off at quite a pace. He's trying to keep up. I can still smell that lingering smell of urine. But sure, hey? Is everybody awake now? I know I am. Yeah. Well, we're not called WildEarth for nothing, I tell you. And as I say, this is live, and it just goes to show. Oh, there's our bull again. It just goes to show you just cannot predict what's going to happen. My word. But as I say, it is all about respect. If you respect the bush, it will respect you back. And it looks like there was a lot of mist that was coming in behind us, and it looks like it is lifting. So I am keen, because it is still quite overcast. It is cat weather, so I am quite keen to see if we can't catch up with any felines this morning. We drove Juma flat yesterday looking for tracks, so I'm hoping they'll come out the woodworks. Now, it could have been the leopards went to ground because of the lions passing through the area, so maybe we'll have some lion activity. It sounds like there's no one else out this morning, so we'll have to try and cover the ground ourselves. It's always helpful if there's a few game drive vehicles out, because we can all cover little bits and pieces. But we'll certainly see what we can find, but certainly a way to start the morning with a gentleman coming to say hello. Has your heart returned to normal yet, or is it still racing?
No, I'm fine now.
Oh, good.
Luckily, no.
Well, Andrew loves elephants, so I wonder if that's gonna change his mind, or has that just heightened it even more?
No, heightened.
Heightened it. Hi, Clancy in Columbus. Welcome on board this morning, Clancy. And Clancy wanting to know, if a baby elephant gets a tear in its ear, will the tear get bigger as it gets older? And it seems to. It doesn't seem to actually knit and heal. So as the ear expands, so too will the hole. It's a little bit steep there, so I'll come down off of the grassy area here. So our Eddie Ball's going into the thick of the bush now by the looks of it. I might get another view of him. Oh, just as I said about the low cloud, we are getting a little bit of drizzle. We might need to go to the little house on the prairie just to wait it out a little bit. Oh. Okay, Mr. Bull. Thank you so much for your encounter. But yeah, I think we are going to have to go. It's a little bit heavy. I'm going to say I wouldn't be surprised if that Ellie with the big hole in his ear, I wouldn't be surprised if it happened when it was a lot younger. Because the size of it is probably about that. But it's a perfect hole, and as I say, it might have been caused by a thorn. It could have been caused when it was younger by a gunshot. If it had got close to the boundaries of the reserve, because there's no hunting allowed on in Greater Kruger. There is the odd exception if there is an animal that's a danger to the public, especially in the Kruger part of the Greater Kruger National Park, which is part of what the Sabi Sands is part of the Greater Kruger. Yeah, there's one or two drops. I can see there's some more coming. It's amazing how quickly it is changing. I keep looking over my shoulder thinking, okay, it has actually, the clouds have lifted slightly, and it literally just as I said that, it starts raining. There is some low cloud coming in. Excuse me. Excuse me. Okay, so we're very close to the shelter. There's 1 or 2 drops now, which I think the cover can handle. But if it gets any heavier, then at least we're close by. But there's some impala here we can say a quick hello to. What are you guys watching, impala? Oh, look at the babies. I love baby impala. They're just all leg. They're beautiful. Welcome on board to you, Donna. And I think we will have a check around the hyena dens. We did check down on Cheetah Cut Line yesterday, just to see if there was any movement. We are going to put the rain cover on, so just bear with us. But I would have been surprised if anybody was around after the line had gone through there. With the line getting so close, I mean, it went right up to the hyena den. We literally just missed it by seconds. And it was quite funny how that happened. Now, there's a lot of females just looking out down there. So once we've got the rain cover on, we'll move and just see. Oh, someone's snorting. Bit of a weak snort, but there was a bit of a snort there. Oh, there we go. They are. They're picking something up. What are you seeing? Around this side of them just so I don't push them towards whatever it is that they are snorting at. There's another impala down there. Some of them are still grooming and messing, so it could be that it is quite far away. Either that or they're seeing those impala and not seeing them for being impala, which I have seen before as well. Okay, if I switch off and just have a quick look with the binoculars, you can maybe hear the snort through the nose. That kind of vibe. Oh! Time to get heavy. We are going to have to run to the little house on the prairie, unfortunately. No! Just as there's something going on down there. Unfortunately, we do have a lot of equipment on board, so we don't want to risk getting it too wet. Ladies, hold that thought. We'll be back in like 10 minutes. It's going to take probably 10 minutes just to subside, and as soon as it does we'll head round that side and just see if we can't see who they're calling about. Yeah, hold that thought, just keep a lookout. We're coming back, promise.
Maybe if you can try reversing.
I was going to try, but we can see if it will work. No, I can't come in from the other side, unfortunately. There we go. So, we'll just take shelter here for a short while, just in case. Yeah, it is just, it's getting so much heavier now, so unfortunately we made the right decision. So we'll take shelter here, but I'll just keep my eye on these impala. With any luck it'll come this way, whatever's causing them to call. But hopefully you did see, there was 1 or 2 that had their heads up and looking straight. And then there was 1 or 2 kind of just looking but putting the head down and grazing. And then 1 or 2 started snorting. Now if I keep quiet you might be able to still hear them. But it's a snort through the mouth, through the nose rather than the mouth. But they're all looking in one direction. And so there was a few more impala further down who weren't taking up the call, which was quite unusual. But they are still snorting, they're still saying there's something there. I can still see there's a little bit of rain, but hopefully it's going to subside very quickly. It is brightening up. Now they're confusing themselves. I've got one impala looking at me now. Now we're not the problem, I promise you. That's why I say impala can be a little bit wishy-washy when it comes to alarm calling for things, and I have seen them jump at their own shadows. But there was quite a number of them picking up the call, so I think it's well worth us checking to see what could be the problem. And obviously with all the young impala, the baby impala, probably about this big, yeah, it's just going again. So we'll just give it a few more minutes and then hopefully it will ease off and then we can go back out and have a look. Because I would love to catch up with one of those cats for you. I am so keen to have a nice view of one of the leopards at least with you. There's not so much calling now, but we'll see if anyone else picks it up, because it looked like whatever it was, they were looking down towards the western side, and it looked like it was carrying on that way. So we'll see if we can maybe drive around, and we'll come up the western side and just try and see what it was that they might be calling for. Yeah, everyone's gone back to normal. So that's also another indication that the animal was quite far away. Because if it's very close, everybody would have been looking, but we had probably about half the herd looking, and everybody would be picking up the call, so you just hear this constant snort, 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 just to make sure that everybody is aware, hey, it's close, you need to worry about it. Whereas that was kind of saying, look, there is something there, it could potentially be a problem, just keep your eye on it, and that's exactly what was happening. I've got a few females starting to look that way now, so once the rain subsides, please. Okay, this is that back car that was coming in. I say, this is part of being live. And I think this helps to put to rest the myth that Africa doesn't get rain. Because I think, you know, we're so used to seeing the dry pictures of Africa. But we do forget that Africa does get a lot of rain, but it's just concentrated in a few months. Now this is our rainy season, and it usually goes from about October, November to January, February. I do remember actually, I think it was last year, we even had rain about April, May, which is a bit unusual, but there was still some rain. But this year it's been really fine rain, or rain that is actually allowing the ground to absorb, because some years you just get 20-30 mils in a downpour in like 10 minutes, and most of that just gets washed away, so the plants can't actually utilise it. Whereas this fine rain that you're probably not seeing, but you're obviously hearing, it's falling slow enough that the ground is actually absorbing it, so the plants can utilise it, and that's a lot more advantageous to them than this heavy downpour, which sometimes we do get. And as I say, we did have another electrical storm last night. It was like disco lights just going off. And I said I'd be surprised if it brings rain, and I'd be surprised if it brings heavy rain. And so we probably only had like 2 or 3 mils. I actually accidentally left my teacup outside, and there was about that much in it. But there was a few hyena tracks heading that way towards camp. Saw on, which road was that? I think it was this road down here. Andrew in the USA, welcome on board, Andrew. Oh, Angie in the USA, welcome on board, Angie. And after that encounter with the big bull Ellie, are there any animals that I'm afraid of? And it's all part of being in the wild. I've been privileged enough to go walking with lions on foot. We were tracking the lions and we had the big male lion charge out from behind the bush, and I was actually with Andrews who's one of the best trackers in the country, and he still talks about that encounter because that was quite a memorable one for him as well. So the longer you live in the bush, and I've lived in the bush for 9 years now, I can't believe it's been that long, in Big Five country for just over half of that, and at some stage you are going to get encounters, and that will probably be one of the most memorable now. I'm so glad you guys actually shared that with us. But I won't say that I'd be scared of elephants because of it. As I say, he respected us, we respected him back. And as I say, for all those reasons that I was explaining up until that point, you know, we were keeping our distance, we were being respectful, and you can do everything you can in your power to actually maintain that respect, but sometimes they're still very curious. And we've even had baby hyenas come up to the vehicle. Now obviously hyenas are much smaller, but they'll still come up and have a look. We've had dwarf mongoose come up to the vehicle and have a look. So animals are naturally curious. And of course, you know, if they see you or see vehicles day in, day out, at some stage they're going to go, oh, I just want to see what this is about. And it's obviously not letting the animals cross that boundary. That's why if there's a leopard that comes up to the vehicle and the leopard actually puts its paw on the vehicle, then you really need to encourage it that's where the line is. You don't want that to be crossed. So you might just roll the vehicle forward, or you might just tap on the side of the vehicle just to give it that fright, just so that it knows, you know what, there is that boundary there, do not cross it, especially with the carnivores, because if you've got open vehicles like we have here, and you'll see the guests driving around in open vehicles, if that leopard or the lion, the hyenas tend to still be very wary. There's like natural curiosity with as they're smaller, but as they get to be adults, they still have that natural respect for that boundary. Let's say with the carnivores, if you allow them to get to that stage where they start jumping on the vehicles, if they put two paws on, or even jump on the bonnet, what's to stop that cat jumping into the guest, or even the cat jumping from the ground onto the vehicle? So that's why this works, because we still have to maintain that boundary. I think the things I was scared about was the scorpions, because I didn't understand, and a lot of this, our fears spring from lack of understanding. So there's obviously the fears about the snakes. A lot of people think, you know, if you're walking out through the bush, you're definitely going to get bitten. And it's not the case. I've been walking in the bush for those 9 years. Where I am now, I walk in the bush more than what I ever used to. And I've come across snakes, and they've always moved away. The puff adders on the road moved away. If you walk through the bush, you know, if you hear this puffing, you think, oh, puff adder's around. And it's because you're just about to stand on it, and it doesn't want to get stood on. And that's why it'll go through this motion. The cobras will raise their hoods so that they're saying to you, look, I don't want you here, move away. And I've got a spitting cobra that I live with around my camp, and I see her every so often. And I just happened to look out at my desk. I had my desk and it was all open. I just happened to hear something, and something caught my eye, and I looked, and she was just probably about 1.5 meters, 2 meters away, just running along the drainage line. It was just like a dip in the concrete to catch the rain. And she was just moving along there. My dog also saw it, little Tucker, and he ran out, and I thought, let me just see what she'll do, because I need to see if she's going to start spitting everywhere. And he went out, and he was about 1.5 meters away from her. She reared her head, and she opened her hood. She didn't do anything. So I called him off, and called him back to me. He came back, and she went down, and she carried on. And she actually came around to the front of where my office is, and there was a little hole in the step. She went into the hole and just sat there, and I thought, let me just see what she does, because obviously I have volunteers around. And I walked up and down those stairs, and she stayed still. And I had a look, and I could see her little eye poking out. And I went up and down those stairs, and I went and sat inside the office, and probably about half an hour later, my little dog moved, and he went outside and growled a little bit, and I thought, she's moving. And I got up and had a look, and she'd already gone. And I looked inside that little hole, couldn't see her. She waited for me to settle, and then she just carried on. And that, again, I mean, if she decided to spit, she can spit very accurately, 5 or 6 meters, and she can spit into your eyes and blind you if you're not careful. And she could have easily done that, and she didn't. It's because I think she's obviously been living with us, and she's been living with us for, well, 3 years now, and she knows our movements. And as I say, I'd rather have her there because she's going to be territorial, she's going to keep other snakes out, and she knows us, we know her, and she'll just raise that hood and say, look, I'm not happy with you here, and you just move away, and she'll go off. The venom is very expensive for them to make energy-wise, so they don't want to waste it on you. And I think this is what if you do go to these areas, you've got to remember, I'm not saying don't go and pick it up because you're actually threatening the snake then, and the snake may bite you, may inject venom into you, but if you're just out and about in the bush, you're not likely just to get bitten just like that. There's got to be a reason for it, they've got to feel threatened. Same with the spiders as well, there's only 5 species of spider. Unfortunately, that is one of my childhood fears. It always has been spiders. But again, moving out to South Africa, I've come to appreciate their beauty, and I have had a couple of smaller spiders on me, which I never would have done. I did hold a tarantula to try and get over that fear, and it did help actually. But the golden orb, the one that we had in the vehicle the other day, the one that was about this size, that was still a little bit big for me. But I have had a smaller golden orb. I did actually have it on the end of its web, and it started walking up towards my hand, and as soon as it touched my hand, it dropped back down again. So they don't like the smell of humans. But as I say, I'm coming to appreciate their beauty, and I know, there's only 5 species in the country that are medically important, and I actually had one of them living in my kitchen, the brown button spider. And every night we'd watch it make its web, and every morning it was gone. We didn't interfere with it, it didn't interfere with us, we just carried on, and we actually had one here at WildEarth in the kitchen, just on the crease of the door for a little while. But the brown button it stays on its web, it doesn't go wandering around, so as long as you can see it there, it's fine. And that would be at night, and as I say, we actually got a really nice view of it. The black button spider that looks like the black widow has the hourglass mark on its abdomen, just like the brown button spider. Also, it doesn't wander around, it stays on its web, and you have to go looking for her to go and actually find her. She's very secretive, but that's why you don't want to put your hand in any holes, because that's where she would like to go. And again, if she feels threatened, then yes, she's going to bite you, but you don't hear of anyone being bitten in the wild by those spiders. The spiders that do run around that you do have to check, your bedding and things like that, are the violin spider and the sac spider. Violin spider comes out at night, runs around, and the sac spider lives in a little silk purse about that big, on the side of it would be on the side of the tent seam, if you like. If it was living here, it would be probably where there's just a bit of a crease. And that one does live in houses, so if you see this little silk sack and a little black head poking out, there's a sac spider, and it'll live in there during the day and run around at night to go and look for food. So again, understanding their behaviour, you just check your shoes, make sure there's nothing in there. And scorpions was my other one. I hated the thought of scorpions. I could never go work in a country with scorpions. Apparently there's scorpions in the UK, but when I was a kid I didn't know that. But the scorpions, again, I thought you would die instantly from their sting, and it's not the case. Even the Parabuthus, the most potent scorpions, it's going to hurt extremely. It's going to be so painful apparently to have the sting from a Parabuthus. And the sting is very fat, and their pincers are very small, so they use the sting to immobilise their prey. So again, it will depend on where they sting you, and how fit you are, your age, and how much venom they actually inject. And it's the same with the snakes as well. So you might not necessarily die, but it would be extremely painful. But as I say, there are cases where people do die from these things, so I'm not saying you don't need to be blasé about them. You do need to remember, keep that in the back of your mind, but you also need to remember that, you know, it's not going to happen as soon as you walk around the corner. I mean, I've had a parabuthus on my foot. It actually climbed onto me in the shower. And I looked, I thought that, you know, there was a hair on my foot tickling me, and I looked down and nope, it's this parabuthus on my foot. Parabuthus transvalensis is probably the most toxic that we get out here. At which point I did kind of go, ah! and kicked it off. Shame he went for a flying lesson that day. Unfortunately, I felt very bad. So I went to pick it up, because it just flew across the room. Picked it up and put it outside. Picked it up in a glass jar, obviously, and put it outside. So hopefully it wasn't on the wear for the encounter. But I say, it was literally just trying to get out the way of the water. It was using my toe as an island. But I did, again, try and get over my fear by holding a rock scorpion, and that had a very small sting, and it stings like a bee. And it's got very large pincers, so the pincers are probably going to hurt more than the sting. And I did hold it, and the guy, it was pretty big. It was probably about sort of pincer to tail. Once the tail was flat, it was probably about that long, and it was about, the pincers were about that far apart, and it was actually walking on my hand, and the whole thing actually fit on my hand, and the pincers came to about here, and it started walking up my arm, and yeah, I'm not liking where you're going here, buddy. But it was amazing to see. It was actually moving from side to side, and it was using the pincers to actually see where the edge of my arm was, and it was just walking down, and the guy's going, you're very relaxed with that, and I'm thinking, no, I'm not. but yeah, he was walking down, and then once he got to about here, then he picked it up. Come on, Rain. And Parla moved off. Yeah, they haven't moved. Oh no, they're still there, they're still looking, but they haven't carried on calling. Is this happening during the day? Is it happening at the water? Is it happening in the water? Because elephants go for a swim. So all of these, you know, people say, oh, who's going to win? It will depend on the circumstances, it will depend on the size of the animal, and it will depend on the reason why they're having a conflict in the first place. I've seen elephant back away from rhino, I've seen rhino back away from elephant, I've seen hippo back away from buffalo, I've seen buffalo back away from hippo. I'm just trying to think if I've actually seen an encounter with a hippo and an elephant. I don't recall if I have, but again, it could be one or the other. It depends on the size of the elephant. If the elephant's coming down to the water's edge to drink, and there's a territorial bull there, chances are if the bull's not happy, for whatever reason, if it does decide, you know what, I don't like you being there. I've seen it with the buffalo. The hippo did not like the buffalo, even just sitting on with the bum in the water. So if it's the same scenario, it could be that the hippo chases the elephant off. If it's a big bull in must, or even the bull that we saw just now, if he was at the water's edge and the bull was in must, it might actually be the elephant that says, you know what, actually, no, I'm in must, I've got my, got the testosterone running around my body, I've got the strength, I've got the confidence, you're going down, my friend, and you might just chase him back into the water. So there's different scenarios, and there's different things, or different reasons why maybe one animal might win that day. But certainly with the hippos, if they're in the water and they're territorial, I'd say, you know, I've seen them be quite aggressive. Elephants, if they're swimming in the water, the hippos, let's say generally speaking, they're pretty chilled. You know, we've seen the buffalo on the water's edge, we've seen a pod of hippos, a family of hippos in the water, and they've not bothered at all. And as I say, it was just that one day. It must have been a territorial bull, and he was just in one of those moods. He just didn't want anyone near his water. I've seen the buffalo chasing rhino. I've seen videos of that. We've seen, I think it was buffalo at the water's edge, and made the rhino back off down at Treehouse Dam, I think, if I remember rightly. So yeah, it'll depend on the personality of the animal as well, and what they feel like on the day. So hopefully that helps to answer it. say, that is nature. There's a lot of what ifs. And I'm really hoping, come on rain, pass. Hi Jennifer, and welcome on board from Toronto. And you've heard me talking about matriarchs, and do all animals have matriarchs, or is it just some, or are they subtle? And different animals have a different setup. So elephants and hyenas have the matriarch society, so females are in charge, they'll say what's happening, and they'll even keep the bulls in line, so the bulls will listen to the females. You then have a male-dominated society, so like with the antelope, you tend to get the males are dominant, and you get the female herds, and they'll pass through the territories of the males. So it's not really a matriarchal society. The females aren't in charge of the males. But as I say, you will have maybe a slightly more dominant female within the herd, and they'll have their rank, but it's not as obvious in the antelope herds. But as I say, they'll move between the male territories. And then you also have, with the baboons, you have like an oligarchy society. And the males, there'll be a group of dominant males, maybe 1 through to 4, 5, 6, depending on the size of the troop. And you'll have the alpha, the beta, and then it will go down. And the alpha is the most dominant. And they will control the troop. They will protect the troop as well. And the females will also have a rank, but the females still remain subordinate to the males. So it's really the males that are running the show in that sense. And then you also have a pair or a family. So you'll have a male and female who are both dominant. And they will look after the family group, and again they'll dictate where they go and what they do, and they'll tend to be the breeders, so like the wild dogs, and you're looking at the mongoose, the social mongoose, like the meerkats and the dwarf mongoose. So they will be the breeders, and then the rest of the family will help to rear the young because they're all related, so they have a vested interest, so they'll help to rear the young. So there are different social systems. And as I say, because we've seen a lot of the hyena and the elephant, I suppose you've heard me talking about matriarchs a lot more than maybe some of the other animals. I'm just keeping a look at it. The impala is still here. And it looks, I'm really hoping this time it looks like it's subsided. Please! I'm itching to get out. Marco in New Jersey, welcome on board. Is this true?
Yeah.
Do you know what? That's a spider I've never heard of. Marco wants to know if we've got the camel spider, and do we get them here in the Sawi Sands. And I'm just being told that Andrew had one on his foot, and that's actually a spider I've never heard about.
It's called a solifuge.
Oh, okay. I'm just remembering that now as well. I was thinking, camel spider, why does that not ring a bell? But it is one of the lesser known names, and it's actually the solifuge, or sun spider. I'm just trying to think, there's a lot of other names for it. But yeah, camel spider is not one that I've used much myself, but certainly the solifuge. Unfortunately, I don't have a book with it in. But it isn't actually a spider. The difference between the solifuges and the spiders, just to see if we can't put any tracks. But that's why we were just having a look around just as we were under the little house on the prairie, just to make sure nothing was crossing in front of us. She's on sentinel duty by the looks of it, making sure that all the little babies in front of us. And there's the ram. And I can see he is starting to gear up for the breeding season. He has kicked out any of the young males from last year, the yearlings. I can't see any small males here now. So up until this point they'll be allowed to stay with the females, but now it is coming up for breeding season in the next 2 or 3 months, and I have seen they do tend to gear up for it around this time of year. So they'll start kicking out any males and making sure that they know their place, that they're not allowed to be with the females anymore. But these babies are growing quite rapidly. You can see there's a little boy there. You can just see his horns just poking out above his eyes. So he's probably about 5 weeks, maybe 6 weeks old. We've still got a few females on the opposite side of the road where they were. See, they're all just checking out in different directions. But they were looking down that way at the beginning. But they shouldn't have been calling for these guys, because you can see quite clearly from here. So I thought maybe they were just seeing the tips of the ears or something and mistaking them, but I can't see how they could have done that from there now. But these guys weren't picking up the call. Move around in that, so I'm just checking underneath any of the vegetation just in case they took shelter, but let's say it was light enough for them not to really worry about it too much if it was a cat. This is where I'm going to find all the small termite mounds, thinking that they're cat faces. So I'm really good at finding termite mounds that look like cats, and there was one. But the day I don't check, it will be a cat. Just checking on the bush paper. And that is the good thing about the rain, it resets the paper so it's all nice and fresh, so if we do have any tracks there's no doubt that they're in the last half an hour, or from the last half an hour. Alarm call was given. Could you hear the alarm call nice and clearly?
Yeah.
Awesome. Obviously I've been talking a lot about alarm calls recently, but first time I could actually hear one fairly clearly. I'll say with the baboons, they kind of do a bahu. There's a 2-syllabled bark. With the spiral-horned antelope, it tends to be more of a bark from the belly, in 1 syllable. then we've got various snorts through the nose, like the impala. The impala are quite high-pitched. You get almost like someone trying to blow their nose, which sounds like the wildebeest. Like a... Zebra as well, that's their alarm call. And everybody understands each other's alarm call. So everybody knows to pick it up. Okay, so we're on the western side, so we're at the bottom of the area where those females were looking. I'm going to check the road as we drive as well, just to see if there isn't any tracks. But I couldn't see anything moving in my binoculars. And unless there was an eagle sitting in a tree. Oops. Too busy looking that way. But eagles can attack the babies. The babies are still at that vulnerable size. Eagles and snakes. But a python can even take an adult female. Did you see anything? I hear you. Yeah, that's my second cat-shaped stick. Just heard the brief call of the dwarf mongoose. I just want to carry on. Having another scan of the trees, just in case somebody's in the trees. As I say, I do feel we should have been able to see what they were seeing. Especially Andrew's got a good meter above me, so he's got the height. Should have been able to see something. Hi Sunny in Wisconsin, good morning to you and welcome on board this morning. I hope you're well. Is GNU still used for wildebeest? Yes it is. It's interchangeable. What have you got? Oh, nice. Oh. Black belly busted hiding in the grass there. Hiding behind the tree. So yeah, they get called brindle GNU or wildebeest. I think it's also so that's for the blue wildebeest, the brindle GNU, and I think it is just known as the white-tailed GNU for the black wildebeest. Okay, I do have another female impala up ahead, just looking straight off into the bush. So maybe this was the area. Come on lady, give him an alarm call. So the bird that's on your screen at the moment looks like the black-bellied bustard. And he actually has quite an interesting territorial call. He'll stand on the mound, and he'll bring his head back and he'll go, and he'll actually make that sound, and then he'll wait, and then he makes sort of like a popping sound, like a It's absolutely brilliant. He's quite a bit larger than the red-crested coron, which is the kamikaze bird. I think it was Peter that described this bird as the champagne cork bird, and it does sound like a cork popping. It's brilliant. Now my female impala up ahead hasn't seen anything. Hi Mary in Nashville. Welcome on board this morning, Mary. Great to have you with us. Interesting question there. Never thought about it much, to be honest. And Mary wants to know, do animals recognise other animals' tracks? And I wouldn't have thought so, Mary. I think really the way they track animals is by their scent and by the sight. To my knowledge, I don't think anybody's ever recorded. I wouldn't even know how you would actually test that theory, but I've never actually seen an animal look at the track and actually follow the track. It tends to be the scent. If they see a track, it's usually they put the nose to the ground and get the scent. Because remember, their sense of smell is so much better than ours. I'd love for a day just to have the sense of smell like an animal, just to understand the world that they see through their sense of smell, because smell is so important to them, and that's why they do leave these calling cards. They use urine to mark the territory, they use the dung to mark the territory, they use pastings. So the smell actually makes up quite a big part of their life. So they don't really need the tracks. The visual comes from obviously seeing where animals are, but to actually locate them, to follow the trail, it's usually the scent. Okay, so we're losing this guy now. But you might have seen quite the dark patches on the back of the bird rather than the chevrons. But if I show you quickly the difference between the red-crested coron, I'm still looking at this female, she's not picking anything up. I'm hoping just by sitting here we might have just got a little bit of movement in the bush here, because we pretty much opposite where those impala were. I mean, we've got the herd over there, so anywhere here, I just thought if we could get movement. I've got no tracks on the road whatsoever, but we've got the one female looking off there, so we're going to have a look. Let's say we're just getting an overview of what's going on here. So while we're doing that, this is the black-bellied bustard who we've just been seeing. So you might not have seen it, but he had this beautiful black which goes all the way up up the neck. And the red-crested coron is slightly smaller, about half the size. And as I say, you've got the chevrons, the white chevrons on the back, and I didn't notice them on this bird. But he's about the size, if you remember me, you might have joined me when we found a red-crested coron on the sandy patch area. And I actually mistook a red-crested coron for a black-bellied bustard because it was so big. It almost like it had been to the gym and it had just been bodybuilding. It was so big, so I just went off the size. And to say now, I'm like, no, I'll just double check. Oh, you can see his black neck really nicely now. He's just put his head up. He's right next to the tree now. So now I know to look out for that black all the way up the neck, just to confirm that it is the black-bellied bustard and the chevrons on the back. Because as I say, it looked like it should have been, and then it started doing the Koran call, and it was like, oh, okay, no, I was wrong. But you can see that black underneath the chin, and going all day, all the way down the neck. Cool. Alrighty, well, let's catch up with this female, because she's still looking in the bush, but there's no alarm call coming from her. It's a little bit hard here, so tracks wouldn't register too well, unfortunately. The herd has moved a little bit this way. What were you seeing, lady? Most of the herd saw it, so whatever it was, they seem to agree, which is throwing me a little bit. What to do? Come down Rebecca's. Because the impala are alerted now, so if there was anybody around, I don't think it would try anything now. And also, it is open, it is daylight, so they are likely to be fairly safe now. I'll say they are on high alert. Strange, not picking anything up on the road here at all. That rain might have actually been a little bit heavier, but still some of the sticky sand. Do we take another drive back down, just in case somebody pops out? Maybe we do a lap. Let's go down Zoe's, and down Rebecca's, and do a lap around this area. Rain, why did you have to fall at that point? Oh well. But at least we can still stay with you. I'm liking this little house on the prairie. Excitement of the alarm calls. So unfortunately sometimes you do have to just accept that you'll not know why, but I love to try and find out. It's like solving a puzzle. I love trying to put all those bits and pieces together, and for those of you who might just be joining us for the first time, that's part of what it's like as being a guide, is trying to put all these pieces of puzzle together. So collecting the tracks, collecting the signs, other signs like dung of where animals might be, and the alarm calls, and you try and piece it all together and try and work out what might happen. But what you're trying to do is put logic to an animal that has its own mind as well. So sometimes your logic doesn't quite fit in with what they do. And just watching that bull elephant was a prime example. We saw the bull elephant just on the edge of the quarantine area, and Andrew said, "Oh, there's an Ellie there," and we just had to mess with the microphone. It had a little bit of water in it, so I just messed with the microphone, and then we went off to try and find him, and he just disappeared. I was like, yeah, but he was pointing down towards the dam, so chances are he went down there. So we went down towards the dam. No, couldn't find him. Turned around, came back, and we were on the southern side of the quarantine area, and that's where he was. So we watched him for a bit, and he started walking up towards final control, and then he turned around, and then he turned around again, and there was no logical pattern to him whatsoever, and he was putting his nose up every so often, having a smell, but there was absolutely no, and he wasn't even going directly to each maruda tree. He was kind of just sauntering along. And that's, as I say, it's an animal with his own mind, so we've got to try and remember that. And it's the same with the cats as well. Still not entirely sure what happened with the leopard the other day. We had the tracks coming down towards Philemon's Dip, but then we had elephants up here that trumpeted, and we had cat tracks coming up from the south, the Zoe's. I think it possibly was a different cat, but there's nothing to say that it wasn't the same cat that went down and did 180 degrees and came back up again. And we have seen it on occasion. Could be that something caught their attention, or maybe they just decided, actually, this seems to be a dead end, let's turn around and come back up again. And that is the art of tracking, is trying to think like the animal. Why would the animal do that? What would make the animal change direction like that? And you might have heard me speak about Adrian Lowe, and he's, as I say, one of the best trackers in the country, and what that man can see, wow. We're doing an assessment, and we were looking for tracks to follow, and we have to try and trail it for about half an hour. It gets a good idea of how you are, if you can follow tracks on the road and going off through the bush, and can you stay on the trail and that sort of thing. So there's two parts to the track and the sign. Ooh, giant African land snail. See, with it being very wet out here this morning, nice moisture around for it, so it's not going to dry out in the sun. Very, very cool. Giant African land snail. Been seeing a couple of the shells, but I haven't seen a live specimen for a while. They're actually capable of withstanding the dry season by putting themselves back into the shell, and they almost have like a door that closes, a calcium door, and it comes from the edge of the shell, and it just locks the moisture inside, so they can actually survive the dry season very nicely, ready for when it's raining again. And that's quite a decent size, that one. When I was a kid, a friend of mine actually had a couple of giant African land snails. She used to use them to pluck the hairs out of a leg. She used to put them on the leg and just pluck the hairs. Don't know if it's a method used by beauticians, but there you go. Okay, Stephanie in Winnipeg. So just to give you a size estimate, it was probably about that big. The shell, about that sort of size. That was a decent size. Stephanie would like to know the life expectancy of a land snail and how big they get. And that's probably one of the bigger land snails I've seen. I have seen them maybe just that little bit bigger, about that sort of size with the shell, but not much bigger than that. But it's a very fuzzy memory about how long they can live for. Maybe someone can check it up for us. So what would that be? That would be about, what, 15-20 centimetres? Something like that. For one of the larger... Yeah, probably about 15 centimetres. Probably not more than 20 centimetres for a shell. I think that would be knocking on the big side. But yeah, if someone can maybe just check up on the life expectancy. The same, memory is very fuzzy on that one. I think a guesstimate, vague recollection, maybe around 15 years. But yeah, someone's going to have to check up on that one for me. Oops, sorry. Okay, so we're heading down Rebecca's Road. Actually, while we're here, maybe it is worth us just checking out the hyena den here. I think our mother hyena did actually take Little and Tomby down to down south of the hyena den on Philemon's cut line, but maybe she moved it this way. So let's have a look. Seeing as we are here, it makes sense to have a quick check. Yeah, so I think that giant African land snail we just saw was probably about 10 centimetres. So not far off of the largest one that I've seen. Roughly, give or take a few centimetres. Ah, 10 years. Thanks, Kathy. Not too far, too overestimation, so what, 15-20. So about 10 years. Thanks, Kathy, for a giant African land snail. No tracks this side. I do want to head down Weaver's Nest and just see if we can't locate that other den that's on Weaver's Nest, but I'm not entirely sure of the location. But I think she might have taken it down to that one because it's directly due south of the den off of Philemon's cut line. So I do want to see if we can locate. Oh, a little steenbok here. Ah! I was just trying to move forward so you'd actually see it past the tree, but it just ran off.
Are we still there?
Oh, can you still see it? Just ran off. Almost. we're just approaching where we used to see Teddy. So this is Teddy's old den. We did see... Oops. We did come around here. Oh, hello, Kudu. Okay, Kudu's that side. She's actually going towards the entrance of the den now. Hello, beautiful lady. Where's the rest of your herd, lady? They tend to be in small herds. About 4 or 5 females. Hi, Christine. In Texas. Welcome on board to you this morning, Christine. Christine wanting to know what will happen to a large animal if it dies, like an elephant. What happens to its body? Is it left to decompose? And yes, it is. It's an elephant carcass is quite a lot of food. So if there is, and likely, in all likelihood, there are dead elephants around. We just don't. They don't tend to die next to the roads. So it tends to be closer to the riverbeds if they're old. Otherwise, baby elephants might be attacked by predators, maybe disease or injury. Anything like that could cause an elephant to die. But it can produce a lot of food for a lot of the scavengers. So hyenas quite often will go and scavenge from an elephant carcass. Bush pigs. Bush pigs will actually eat meat, and even warthogs, especially during the winter time, they'll eat meat. So they might scavenge on a carcass. So lots of different animals. Even if the lions haven't been able to catch anything, they might even eat on a carcass of an elephant. Okay, that's one of the holes, and definitely looks like no one's using that at the moment. It's all covered in vegetation. So one of the ways we can tell if it's being used is the vegetation is all cleared out the way. So lots of vegetation on that side of the mound, and if you remember, Teddy would use that hole quite a bit when it was younger, and then it moved around the other side and used this hole. But we did wonder if they were interconnected, which is a possibility. Actually, you can't quite see the other hole here, but there's a lot of vegetation there. So no one's using this one at the moment. So this is the den off of Zoe's, Teddy's old hyena den. So still no activity there. So I think let's head down Rebecca's, head on to Weaver's Nest, and maybe we'll do another drive up the western side of the quarantine a little bit later, just to see if anyone is going to pop out there. But I'm still very confused by that, because we should really have seen. I mean, you had a good view of that area, didn't you? Where the impala were looking.
Yeah, I could see it.
Yeah. It says to me, you know, we should really have seen something. Because even even if there was a cat stalking through the grass, we should have seen some form of movement. The grass wasn't very long on the quarantine at that point. Good morning, Lucy Sofa. There was just one blow of quarantine that thundered south. I was halfway through a story. Apologies if I was, can't remember. I know I was talking about the tracks and the signs. Before I saw the kudu, because I feel I was halfway through answering it and I can't remember where I was with it. Oh, that was it. Yes. Yes, that was right. Christine's question. Thank you. And large animal guys. Yeah, I think I was pretty much finished with that, wasn't I? That was it. Oh, memory, goldfish memory again. Go on, wake up! So Peggy would like to know if any birds eat giant African land snails. Welcome on board, Peggy, good to hear from you. And I have vague recollections that they do. I know, I'm just trying to think of what country it is now. Actually, I think it's the thrushes in the UK. They'll take snails and smash the snails on the anvil, on a stone anvil, to get the snail from the side. I think we might need to put the rain jacket on, so do bear with us. Only 2 little drops, but it doesn't... Actually, I'm going to be quiet because I've not really been very good at predicting what's going on with the rain, so I'm just going to stay quiet. We might have to run back to Little House on the Prairie again. There we go. bumpy ride, everyone, so just hold on. Now, where did this come from now? That's not cool. But no bird species actually springs to mind, Peggy, for the actual species that would eat giant African land snail. But there would be birds that were capable of dealing with that. So it's one of those animals, because you don't get to see it very often, you don't tend to learn much about it. It's one of those, I think I'm going to have to do a bit of reading up on the giant African land snail. Remember when I did my exam, it was probably about 5 or 6 years ago, and I probably haven't used much of that information since, and unfortunately it just goes poof. You lose it. If you don't use it, you lose it. And it is so true. Tarpaulin on.
Stop for a second.
Okay, everybody, I think this range is like a little bit too heavy. I think to get under a tree, but we're going to have to put the tarpaulin on, and hopefully we'll be back very shortly. Bye for now. Welcome back, everybody. Sorry about that. No idea where that just came from. It literally heavened open. It's like literally a small little cloud burst right over us, and now nothing. But I'm just playing it safe. We've got the tarp just over the camera, so if we do see any animals, we'll probably not be able to see them very well. But at least you can be with us. And so I'll head a little bit closer to the quarantine area. Looking at the clouds, it did look, and that's why I say I'm just not going to speak about them anymore, because they looked like they were light enough and high enough that we weren't going to get any drops, but that was just incredible. I don't know where that came from. As I say, we've got to be careful, obviously, with all the technical gear on board. So I might have to just make another turn up, but again it's looking clear now. Again, it's one of those things I would have known, but I've forgotten. There we go. The caterpillar, ground beetles, other snails. Thanks, Kathy from Indiana. Kathy already way ahead of me. And various vertebrates as well. I say they are muscular. There's a lot of meat on them. Hello, Chegra. Ooh! No, I thought we had movement. I say I will be surprised if they have come back here so soon after moving. Any tracks here, but that's as I say, with that little downpour, that might not be surprising. But as I say, if we do find tracks, at least we know they're fresh. It doesn't look like there's been any movement there. So we're just checking out the hyena den on Philemon's cut line. Oh, did you hear that? Let's just go around the corner a bit. Oh, sorry, taking the cover off. I heard something this side. This is crazy now, it's nice and bright. So maybe we can actually venture a little bit further along Philemon's cut line. I did hear possibly a buffalo or something calling just then. Ah, there we are. Whoop. Oh, sorry. It was an old nest, but there's the buffalo, that's why I obviously heard calling then. A couple of them there. So he was almost saying, hey, what about us? Don't forget us. It looks like there's possibly a couple of old boys. Oh, what sometimes happens is there'll be pathfinders for the herd with females and the youngsters, and those female herds can be pretty large, in the hundreds of numbers. And you get what's called pathfinders, and there may be a small group that go up ahead and actually find the way to pastures or water and almost guide the herd. Yeah, this is an old bull. That's right, you can come through. It looks like there was another one behind him, so I wonder if he's going to turn around just now. I'm going to come this way, mister. I'm just going to see if we can roll forward a little bit, maybe get a slightly better view of him. Yeah, poking out from behind the bush. Look at him. What you doing? Obviously making use of the fact that it's overcast. They're finding some vegetation to gather, and then later on they'll probably go to the water holes or the mud wallows and chew the cud. Now that stance there, if you're on foot, that's a problem. That means he has seen you and he's working out what to do about you. And if you're on foot, you need to find a tree, just in case he decides, you know what, I don't like you being there. So just like with the elephant, I was saying, they try and make themselves look big. They put their ears out and they'll put the head up. So he's getting our smell at the moment. I mean, we are actually quite a distance from him, so I shouldn't be bursting his bubble. He's just gone back to where he was standing. So come out onto the road. There he is. But yeah, when they lift their heads up, they're just trying to get more information. So you can see his nostrils are flaring to try and get the scent. Obviously the ears as well, the ears are higher up, trying to get the sound. And looking straight down the nose to try and get more information. You can see he's starting to chew what it was that he was collecting. But if now they're warning to say that you're too close. So that was him being alert. I'm going to say when you're on foot means you have been detected. And obviously we know we've been detected. We've got a loud engine. But then if they go through the warnings, then as I say, the head up, they might jump around, they might thrash the bush with their horns and try and be intimidating. And that's what the warning is all about, is trying to intimidate and say, look, I'm not happy with you, back off. And if a buffalo comes and he puts his head down and he's going to knock you with that boss, and you're talking about a ton animal following through a charge, yeah, you're not going to look very pretty after that. That's why you look for the nearest tree. Morning Ephraim, Tuanyari, Philemon's cut line. Philemon's cut line. Lutu and Konzos. There's the other boy. So that male has decided actually we're not worth bothering about. So he's turned his back on us and started grazing. Hi Anna Marie, welcome on board this morning. Anna Marie asking, do I know the life expectancy for buffalo in captivity? And for some of you who are wondering, this is the African buffalo you're seeing on your screen. This isn't water buffalo. Water buffalo found in Asia. And Cape buffalo are a subspecies of African buffalo. And they found more to the west of Kruger. But the life expectancy for a wild buffalo is somewhere in the region between 16 and 18 years old. You can get up to about 20, 26, but I think that is for the old Duggar boys. But a decent age for a buffalo in the wild, you're looking about 18, 20-year-old. In captivity, like with any other animal, you can increase that, because with the captive animals they've got food and water on tap. They've got, if they've got diseases, they're cared for. If they have injuries, they're cared for. So it does actually increase their life expectancy. And I wouldn't be surprised if buffalo in captivity could reach 30. And we've got the red-billed oxpecker sitting on the back of this Duggar boy. They can be a little bit of a hindrance to animals, especially if they've got a wound. The oxpeckers have been known to open the wounds because they actually eat animals' bodily fluids So that's why you'll see them around the ears. They're actually eating the earwax, and around the noses as well, especially nice big nostrils like the buffalo have. They'll eat the mucus inside the nose, around the anus as well, and any of the blood. And that's why they go for the ticks, because obviously the ticks are filled with blood. Quite a strange diet really for a bird to have, but nevertheless that's what they do. So they get in amongst everything. Wow, he's got impressive horns, eh? Sure. Now you can see there's a gap between the horns on this buffalo, so he's not as old as the buffalo we saw just before. The other one was much older, and actually his neck was larger, and the dewlap underneath his neck, the flap of skin that starts to droop as he gets older, was much larger. So as the buffaloes get older, that central part, that groove, becomes shallower as they get older. Oh, I can hear the parrots again. Yeah, well, it looks like it's lifting, dare I say. So maybe we should try down Weaver's Nest. So it's probably about 3 buffalo here. Oops. Which means that little downpour was even more obscure. Where on earth did that come from? It still amazes me. But this is Africa. Anything is possible. Nature, weather is part of that. Expect the unexpected. And nature reminds us of that constantly. The wind is starting to pick up a little bit. I was just thinking I can smell the buffalo now, whereas it was very still before. So the wind is starting. As I say, I'm not going to go too far, just in case we do have another downpour. But maybe we can just have a quick look and see if we can't find the hyena den where little Ntumbela has been moved to. Because it was due south, straight from that den, straight south, where the young mother took her pup. See what we can find. Actually, that downpour is quite refreshing. Nice shower. Actually see the road from that hyena den. You see, I wondered if this was the 2-track leading to the other hyena den. But obviously it hasn't been used for a long time, so it's actually grown over. But this looks like it could be the place. But we'll go further down just see if we can identify if there was another area. Otherwise we'll drive in on this one and just see if I can try and follow a trail. Yeah, there definitely looks like there's some form of two-track coming in and out here. I think it joins up there. Could be the same one. I don't know of another den on the southern side of Treehouse Dam. There's nothing to say there wouldn't be one there. And there's plenty of termite mounds around here, so there is some possibilities. This one's quite open. I wouldn't expect, although there's not much vegetation on that one. Let's just have a little sneaky peek here. But this doesn't look very well concealed. Have a quick look. It is pretty close to the road. It was more on top, there wasn't as much vegetation. Can't see any movement. I think there is one or two holes, but I think there's still a lot of vegetation over them. I say I would be surprised if she used this one because it's very open. As you saw with the two hyena dens we have been visiting, they set slightly off into the bush, and there's quite a bit of vegetation surrounding them, because obviously that will help to conceal the den. Hi Sherry, welcome on board this morning. And Sherry wants to know how far will the hyena mum move her cub. And I think it depends on the network of dens. Oh, another kudu bull. Very nice. Oh, and that sun's coming out now. Can you believe it? There he is. Hopefully he's nice and framed. Beautiful, wow. Oh, I love kudu bulls. So we saw the kudu female before. She lacks horns, and you can see this male has a beautiful set of horns on him. Absolutely stunning. And you know it, don't you, buddy? One of the larger kudus that we have here, and you can see nicely there's that lump just behind his neck. And that helps to counterbalance the weight that he's going to be carrying in terms of those horns, the nuchal lump. And you can see quite nicely those stripes on his body, helping to break up the outline when he's mixed in with all the vegetation there. So yeah, it's difficult to say exactly how far they would move in one go. And as I say, we know of 5, possibly 6 hyena den sites within this 1,000 hectares that we traverse. But there's nothing to say that our family... Oh, there's the dwarf mongoose just crossing in front of us on the road. But there's nothing to say that there aren't more within this 1,000 hectares. I'm sure there are, and as I say, I'm sure there is. I'm sure she moved it into an area, or into a den site just right of us in this area. And there's nothing to say that this family doesn't go beyond that 1,000 hectares, that they might have other den sites on the other side of the roads that mark our boundaries. And of course, the little mongoose doing that just to try and gain a bit of height. That's very characteristic of mongoose. Sounds like he's calling to other members of the family. Now, I have been hearing a few chirps on the left-hand side here. Oh, the rest of the members are actually further down the road. I can see them all on the road now. Here comes the kudu bull. I wonder if we can get the kudu bull in the shot with him. Oh, he's scarpered. He should start coming into frame now. There we go. Beautiful. Hi, Colleen from Winnipeg. Welcome on board this morning. I was just trying to see if we can get a nice view of him without the bush in the way. Oh, he's eating ruler fruit. Welcome on board, Colleen. Colleen wants to know if you can kind of guesstimate the age of a kudu using the horns. And you can guesstimate the age. So this is quite an old boy. Again, they can live up to, if memory serves me correctly, around 16, 18 years old. And you might be able to see there's the white tips on the end of those horns. And I think they actually, the keratin, which is the dark layer over the horns, seems to wear down as they get older at the tips of the horns, because they're going to be thrashing the bushes around in a form of display, and they might even horn the ground as well, the mud. And antelope will actually cape their horn in mud to try and make them look fatter, because the fatter they are, the more robust those horns are, so they'll be good for fighting, and the hartebeest especially do that. There's another potential opening there. And here as well. Actually, this is looking more like a 2-track. Let's try this. Yes, there is a 2-track here. Let's try this. Might have found where the other den site is. So there goes the kudu bull. And when kudus are about 18 months old, their horns are about just larger than the ears. They just peek out from over the top of the ears. Okay, where does my 2-track go? There's a mound in front of me, but oh yeah, no, it does go over here. Let's see. Quite low down compared to what I thought she might have gone for. So I'm wondering if because the 2-track definitely comes here, but I just want to make sure this isn't the actual den that everyone's been saying is around here. I don't want to get too close if that is the case. It looks like the 2-track goes right next to this tree, so it could be there's another mound at the back there. It could be there's a hole on the other side of this mound, but this is directly south of where the other mound was, so this could be a potential of where little Untumbela was taken by her mother. So I'd love to find that den site. I'd love to catch up with her again if we're able to. And as fascinating as it would have been to actually follow her, I just didn't want to put the cub's life at risk, because if there was something that I didn't see, we could have potentially have alerted a predator in the area to the fact that she was being moved. So as fascinating as it would have been to see it, I just didn't want to take that risk, put her life at risk either, because that would be us interfering. So I'm just going to go around the sides here, because as I say, that little 2-track just goes that little bit too close if this is a den site. So I want to just see if we can check around the back. But I'm not seeing any holes, so as I say, it could be that it's not the den site that everyone's been talking about. I'm not seeing any holes, are you? We'll need to check around the other side, but for the moment there's a lot of vegetation on it, which means, again, not likely to be used, but I'm not seeing any large holes at the base of it either. But it could be that it's around the other side, and that is going to be a challenge. We might have to use that 2-track to go around the other side. Unless I go around through here and around the back here. Let's just try that. Log. Yeah, the log will stop vehicle. Okay, so this is the final side of that potential den, and I'm not seeing any holes. Yeah, I'm not seeing any holes. Okay, so see if we can just find that 2-track and just see if we can follow it a little bit further. Came around the back of that ruler there. There it is. Okay. So it does go a little bit further. Val! Welcome on board from California this morning. Great to have you with us. And just wondering, I keep saying about what I mean. It means, I don't know if you guys can see it, but I'm seeing a place where vehicles have actually been before. So rather than damage the vegetation, but every time we go off it, you do a bit of damage, even though we try and lessen it as much as possible. Gone through there, hasn't it? Yeah. So I don't know if you can actually see that. It was certainly a lot clearer that side, but this obviously hasn't been used in a while. So when we go off-road, oh, I saw, yes. What was that? Oh, it was warthogs. Oh, I thought it was the ears of a hyena. Even though I know Brian's going to be going, yes, warthog. get excited for those hyena there. So yeah, so I'm driving in on the same tracks because we don't have a sighting, and really whenever we go off road it is to follow one of the big five, but we don't tend to go off road for birds or antelope, things like that, because if we did that and we went off road constantly, it would do a lot of damage to the bush. And obviously if you damage the bush, then you start damaging the environment the animals are living in, and that's not really what we're about. But obviously we're up against having sightings and experience behaviour. This looks more like sound that would be for a hyena. So we weigh it up, but that's why I'm wanting to use tracks that have already been made, so that the damage is minimal that we are making. But because there's already been a 2-track here, this is one of the den sites that has been used in the past for baby hyena. So it means that there has been a sighting. So this is technically, we are allowed to do this. Now this hole looks very clear. But it could be those warthogs that I've just seen have been utilising this. But I'm glad to have found this den, because I would have been forever thinking, oh, I wonder. So this has been used in the past by hyena. It could be the one that the Untumbella got taken to. It is directly south. I say this would be one of the dens that I'm sure the female would have grown up with knowing. This is one of her family dens, and the females would move the curves between the dens, and she would have been moved herself. But that hole looks active, so whoever is using it, somebody's using it. Could be that she got taken to the communal den, and this could be it. But you can see what I'm talking about now with the vegetation. Hopefully this is nice and clear. There's no vegetation covering the entrance at all. As I say, the other one didn't look like a mound that hyenas would use. It is more out in the open. This one has got a lot of vegetation around it. This looks more typical. But just in case I was wrong, I didn't want to run the risk of going too close to the entrances if there was any on that other mound, but there wasn't that I could see. But this would be nice and cool. The sun is coming out, so it is likely that if it is being used, babies are underground, but I'm glad we did find it though. So we will definitely come back here, maybe towards the end of tonight's drive, just see if there's any activity around when it gets a bit cooler. But the 2-track, hopefully I can point out to you, now that we've been on it, I might be able to point it out to you, and it's literally just the 2 tyre tracks that the vehicle leaves behind. That's what we call a 2-track, whereas the roads that we drive on have actually been built and graded and they're maintained, whereas these 2 tracks aren't. They're just going off into the bush, and it's just from vehicles driving in. So if we have a sighting, people follow those 2 tracks in to a sighting, again just to try and minimise the damage to the bush. And then if they haven't been used for a while, like this one, they start overgrowing and eventually they'll disappear. So yes, so I do wonder who's using that, but hopefully we can find out. And I'm really hoping it's a Untumbella. Really hoping. Hi Chris, from California. Good morning to you. Great to have you on board. Chris wanting to know, do hyenas use active termite mounds? And if they do they get attacked? And no, it's abandoned termite mounds, because termites would actually patch up the holes made. And the holes that you can see, that hole that you saw on your screen, the entrance is probably about, it's on an angle, but the actual entrance hole, maybe something like that. And that would have been created by an aardvark, the animal that has a long nose, the big ears, and the huge claws. Very good building of digging claws, and the muscles that go along with it. So they're quite a muscular animal, the aardvark. And they produce the holes because they're trying to get to the termites for food. And they'll dig a hole and then put the tongue, it's got a very sticky tongue, and it'll go in amongst all the small holes and they'll lick out all the termites. But they'll harvest a few and then move on to the next termite mound, and then harvest a few and then move on. So they don't completely demolish all the termites in the one mound. But then they'll move out of the area after a little while so that they can replenish. Once the termite mound is abandoned, if the queen dies, there may be a new queen that gets replaces, or the colony actually ceases to exist if she doesn't get replaced, and it just becomes abandoned. And those holes would no longer be patched up, so other animals will then come in and take over and actually change the shape of it, maybe to fit their needs. So like the warthogs will sometimes make it taller, and they'll use their tusks to try and excavate it a little bit. And once that's happened, the hyenas can come in because they'll be a little bit bigger and they can use them. So as I say, it could be that the warthogs have been using this one, and even though all these dens we've been visiting because of hyena, the warthogs may utilise them while the hyenas aren't there. But at least we now know where it is. That's very cool. And there we go, you should be able to see the 2-track now. If I just move back a little bit, you should be able to see the makings of a 2-track. How on earth did I not see this the other day? But to be fair, I was thinking it was further up the road. Oops, there we go. So hopefully you can see 2 lines heading into the bush, and that is what a 2-track is. Hi, Carol in California. Welcome on board this morning. Carol wanting to know why would termite mounds be abandoned, and as I say, it would be the death of the queen. But that's the usual one that happens. And I think the queen can actually live up until about 30 years, so she can be pretty long-lived. And she actually stops any of the females from developing. Especially, I think, ants that happens with as well. The female produces a pheromone and all the ants will go through and see her. And this pheromone actually stops the females from being able to breed. And then once she dies, might be a female that is able to breed, because there's no longer this pheromone, this chemical. Oh, I can hear the tree frog calling again. Nice if you can actually see them. Foam nest frog, otherwise known as the grey tree frog. Hi, Blair from Vancouver Island in Canada. Welcome on board. I'm struggling to actually see the tree frogs, but hopefully you can hear them at least. And with it being an overcast day, obviously the males are making use of that. Nice and cool, so the females might be out and about. Chirping away there, lovely. But Blair wants to know, surely with the mother carrying the baby, it makes them more vulnerable to predators. Why didn't they just both go in the hole? And she would have been a lot more vulnerable, which is why I didn't want to follow her, because baby would be a vulnerable attack. But the adult hyenas aren't capable of going into these holes very much, unless they're the very large ones. This one wasn't that big, so she wouldn't have been able to fit into the hole. But that was why baby kept wanting to run back, because that's what baby knows as safety, is that hole. But I think also she was an inexperienced mother. I think it is her first baby, and I think that instinct just to get away was just too much. And rather than checking out what was happening and potentially giving the game away that they were there, she wanted rather just to get baby and move. But as I say, I think it was the lions, and the wind did start picking up there, which does make me think she started getting the scent of maybe urine, and that's why she thought maybe the lions were close by. And as I say, this is unfortunately why cubs do die, because obviously inexperienced mothers might do things, and maybe an experienced mother might have done something differently. It could be that an experienced mother would have also taken it. But I think without the predator actually going there, I think maybe an experienced mother might have just stayed put and waited. But as I say, it's a learning curve, and it's just like with humans. You know, when you have a child, you learn what to do and what not to do, and if you've had one child, then your second child is much easier. Ooh, hammercop. And the third child, because you've had the experience, you know what works and what doesn't work. And it's the same with the adult kingdom, with the animal kingdom. There's a hammercop looking for frogs here in Chelapan, which is actually meaning frog pan. And these birds are capable of building huge nests that weigh in about 50 kilos. So they actually hold the record for building the largest nest for a single pair of birds. here in South Africa. The sociable weavers actually hold the record for the largest nest, but that's built by a number of individuals and can reach up to a ton in weight, which is quite incredible considering it's bits of stick and grass, and it really is quite amazing what they're capable of. But even the hammerkop, they've actually dissected a hammerkop's nest once, and they found mostly sticks and twigs, and it'll be in the crook of a fork of a tree. But they've also found the linings, that there was an inner tube from a bicycle. I think there was underpants in there. There was all sorts of things. Those are the ones that do stick out in my mind, just so they can line the nest. Quite amazing. You can see that hammer-shaped head, where it gets its name from, hammerkop, kop meaning head in Afrikaans. And the orange-breasted bushshrike calling in the background there. Kofiti omi. Although I like to say it actually says its name, that's how it used to help me. Orange-breasted bushshrike. Hammerkop being very patient. Just see if he does catch something. Well, he's going to be looking for frogs mostly, and platanas at that. They do eat a lot of platanas. Platanas are a primitive frog. They highly aquatic. They spend pretty much all their life in the water, whereas the typical frogs, they'll leave the water to go and jump on land and move between the ponds or the pans. But very rarely you'll see a platana out of water. Oh, caught something. Ready to strike. Okay, let's just see if we can head round to Treehouse Down, see if there's anything happening there. Seems as the sun is coming out, the clouds are definitely not looking as threatening. Unless we go down the western side of quarantine again. Let's see if we can't have another go at looking for whoever it was that caused the impala to snort. Yeah, maybe we do that instead. So we'll try Treehouse Down this afternoon. Because even though we've just wrote, it can change in a heartbeat. So maybe we should try that. How a termite mound is formed is quite interesting. So they will breed certain individuals who are able to mate, and especially when the rains come, you'll see what we call the alleys. Oh, hello, who are you? Oh, might have been the goshawk again. So these winged alleles are capable of breeding, and they will leave the nest, and they have the wings, but as soon as they touch the ground, these wings shed. So hopefully when they do touch the ground, they're in close proximity of a member of the opposite sex, and if the male and female actually do find each other and mate, they'll then dig underground, mate, lay the eggs, and start a new colony. It's quite amazing to see a load of termites actually leaving. They'll leave through the chimneys of the termite mounds, and you can see when they're almost getting ready for it, you see these chimneys start to emerge, and then the rains come and you just see them leave, and that's how new colonies are actually formed. Whistle of the grey hornbill. Didn't actually go through Philemon's dip, so maybe there might be somebody hiding at Philemon's dip. Let's try that. Dwarf mongoose on the road again. And squirrel. Do you think you're a dwarf mongoose squirrel? Nope. You're just looking for marula nuts that might be in the elephant dung. Yeah, it looks like I found one. Tree squirrel. I wonder if this is the little tree squirrel that was trying to tell us something was there yesterday. Could well be. And there's the little dwarf mongoose just up ahead of him now. Oh, two. Oh, youngster. Got a very similar run. Probably making use of each other actually. Again, more eyes and ears. The tree squirrel, there's only one, possibly two. I think this is another one. Could have been the same one that came out from the bush again. But while the squirrel's searching for food in the dung, it can make use of hearing the alarm calls of the dwarf mongoose if there's any problems. Oh! Here comes the rest of the family again. All the little ones. Oh, I wonder if they're going to start playing. Yeah. Oh, we've got the two squirrels just in front of us as well, playing. Yep. Oh, I love dwarf mongoose. They're probably one of the best things to watch. The comedy value. They're always busy, they're always doing something. Oh, did you see that one trying to jump? There might have been an insect on the grass or something, you just try to jump up to catch it. And as I was saying before, this is one of those animals where a pair will have offspring, and the offspring will then help rear the next set of offspring from the pair. Well, unfortunately it looks like it has come to the end of drive. Just see if we can get another view of the dwarf mongoose. But thank you very much for joining us here on WildEarth this morning, and unfortunately the rain did stop play for a little while, but hopefully you did enjoy what you did get to see, especially that elephant. That was just incredible. And that is something I'll never forget. I don't think Andrew will either. He's got a huge grin on him now. But certainly our hearts were racing at that point, and the adrenaline was certainly kicking in. But yeah, as I say, nature is, you can try and predict as much as you like, but it will always do something unpredictable. And that is what I love about nature and WildEarth. And I'm so glad that we get to share it with you on a daily basis now. And I'm so glad you got to see some dwarf mongoose as well. And hopefully the clouds will lift and we'll have a wonderful drive this afternoon. Keep your fingers crossed. Thank you very much, Andrew, for your camera work. And Brian back in final control. And we'll see you guys tomorrow this afternoon.